Hi, my name is John. I'm here to show you how to make Mark Bittman's quick and easy bread. You'll need one package of dry yeast, 1 cup of whole wheat flour, 3 cups of unbleached white flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 3/4 cups of lukewarm water. Today I'm putting in 2 tablespoons of olive oil for flavor, and also I'm going to put sesame seeds on top of the bread. I'll show you that a little bit later. In the baking process, I'm going to use polenta flour, which is cornmeal. Also, I'll show you that a little bit later. You'll need a bowl. I use a stainless bowl, a cloth for covering the dough, and a little scraper. Here is a food processor with a special blade which kneads the dough. It's a dough blade. Here is the secret weapon, so to speak. 1 quart of clean rocks. We're going to put those in a cast iron pan, and I'm going to show you how to moisturize the oven as it bakes. So let's get started. I'm going to put the dry ingredients into the Cuisinart, and then I'm going to gently stir it around. So the yeast, the salt, and the flour in the Cuisinart, and then gently stir it together. I'm going to do 2 series of Cuisinart processing, one for 30 seconds and the next for 45 seconds. So here goes the water. 1 3/4 cups of lukewarm water. I know the ratios really well for this particular recipe, so I'm just going to pour the whole 1 3/4 in. You may use a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on your flour. Here goes the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. First time I've used this for flavoring. Should be really good. And I'm going to process that, as I said, for 30 seconds. I let it sit for about a minute, and now I'm going to process it again for 45 seconds until it forms a really nice dough ball. I put that into a stainless bowl, as you see, and then I'm going to cover it with that cloth that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to then put this in a 100-degree oven so it rises. You can put it wherever is nice and warm for you. So after 60 minutes, you can see that the dough has risen very nicely. It smells great. I have now put the 1 quart of clean rocks into the cast iron pan, and I'm going to put this in the oven and preheat the oven to 485 degrees. You might want to use a little bit more or less temperature depending on your oven, and you'll figure out what works best for you, but basically between 450 and 500 degrees should work quite well for you. So while the oven is preheating and those stones are preheating in the cast iron pan, I'm going to turn the dough over onto a cutting board with some flour, and I'm going to form it into a round boule, is what they call it. I have an extra cutting board over here for the sesame seeds. I have the pizza peel, a little bit of extra flour, and there is the cooling rack. So here we go. I'm going to now do a one-handed formation of the dough ball. I have my iPhone in one hand, and actually it's quite easy. As you see, you can gently form the dough, put a little flour on top, a little flour underneath so it doesn't stick, and basically we just want to get this into sort of a nice round shape. It's very easy, even with just one hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch those openings on the bottom together, and then I'm going to turn it over and get ready for applying the sesame seeds. I like sesame seeds on top. It makes it look really, really nice. The flavor is great, especially when you toast it. You can leave it off if you like, or use something else like sunflower seeds if you wish. So here we go. I have a little bit of water. As you see, I've put some sesame seeds on the cutting board over here to the left. I have put a little bit of flour on the peel, the pizza peel, and here goes a little bit of water on top of the dough. You'll figure out what amount of water works best for you. You can be generous with it. It's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is just get that water on there, and with one hand plop it on top of the sesame seeds and roll it around just a little bit. And then I'm going to put this on the edge of the pizza peel to make it a little easier to get off. That pizza peel again is floured. And so there it is on the edge of the pizza peel. And what we're going to do now is let it rise for 30 minutes. So the original rise was 60 minutes, and then form the boule, and now let it rise for an additional 30 minutes. You can let it rise for an additional hour if you wish. There's no set rule on that. So the sun is now rising. It's about 6:30 in the morning, and so we're ready to get to work. The final process of getting that bread baked. So here we go. As you can see, the bread is now risen. It's in a nice round shape. It's hanging over that pizza peel just a little bit, which is fine because it'll make it a little easier to get off the peel into the oven. I've taken my little razor blade here, which I use only for cooking, and I'm scoring the top of the bread about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch deep. Probably less is better, unless you want a really wide split in the bread, which is fine. But I've learned for my technique that this works quite nicely, just about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch deep. So I'm going to score that in 3. You can do a crosshatch or whatever you like. And what that does is make sure that the moisture from the oven and the moisture inside the bread equalize, and you get a really nice loaf. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this pizza peel and I'm going to put some of that cornmeal, polenta flour, it's a coarse cornmeal, on the pizza stone, and I'm going to sprinkle it around there and put the bread on top of it, the dough. What that's going to do is give it a nice crunchy flavor and a kind of a nice professional look also on the bottom. What I've done now is I've boiled a bunch of water, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully and slowly pour that into that cast iron pan. As you can see, I've gotten the bread on top of the pizza stone. I'm pushing it back in the oven. The oven is 485 degrees, so it's quite hot, as are the rocks inside of the cast iron pan. If you have glasses, it's a good time to take them off. And very slowly and carefully pour the hot boiling water over the hot rocks, just enough to cover them. And being very careful the whole time, because this is a little bit sensitive process here. Push that in gently, and as you can see, it's going to humidify the oven. Professional bread makers have steam infused into their ovens, which makes the bread come out really nicely. We're going to bake that bread for 20 minutes for the first bit, and then we're going to turn that bread. 20 minutes later now, I have gotten out my little quick read thermometer. We want the bread to be 210 degrees on the inside when it's done, and that'll tell us exactly the right time to take it out. So at this point, the bread's been baking for 20 minutes, as you can see by the camera lens fogging up. It's very moist inside. I'm going to just gently reach in there with the pizza peel and let it do the work of turning that bread. Looks really good. It's light golden brown right now, and the water is gently boiling. Things are looking great. It's 7 in the morning, and we're going to bake that bread for 17 more minutes. You may want to bake it for a little bit less or a little bit more depending on your temperature, but that works really well for me. Alright, 17 minutes later, I have my quick read thermometer. I've inserted it earlier, so I have a nice little hole there, and I can stick this thermometer in right now and read it. It's going to be 210 degrees. The bread is done. We're going to take it out. It's going to look beautiful, and in about a half hour, an hour, after it's sat on a cooling rack for a while, it's going to be ready to eat. It's a great recipe from Mark Bittman, who's the food editor for the New York Times. I've done this many times. You can put walnuts in the bread if you'd like, or dried fruit, or whatever you like. But there you have it. Great professional bread made with yeast, sesame seeds, and so enjoy. Ciao.